All right, guys. Back another full court press. Got Christian with me like always. How you doing, sir?
Doing good, doing good, doing good. How you doing?
Oh, excellent, man. It's basketball's so much fun right now. Like always, there just seems like a good game on every night. Always something happening. New storylines, old storylines. Um, One of these kind of older storylines I think is resurfacing due to mostly the MVP race, but former teammates now. I kind of want to have a discussion with you and kind of see where you're sitting on this as far as Kevin Durant versus kind of Stephen Curry in the MVP race and like a team building philosophy, teammate philosophy, all that stuff. Yeah, I guess my first question would be, where would you have these guys ranked in the MVP race?
Uh, I would probably, man, honestly, it's definitely one of those races where if the season stopped today, I don't think there'd be outrage if either one won it. So I just want to preface my comments by saying that. My vote, though, I was a voter. I would probably give it. I'm probably
So
giving it to Kevin Durant.
yeah, go Kevin Durant. Okay.
I would probably go
Currently,
Kevin Durant.
currently the Nets are 17-8. We're recording this as of Thursday, December 9th. Um, this Brooklyn Nets team, we all know the limitations as far as roster depth, and Kyrie's not playing. Harden's been inconsistent at best. I know he didn't. KD was out of the lineup tonight, but they did get the win. KD is leading the league in scoring currently. Um, I actually have an opposite. I think Steph Curry's the MVP right now, personally, but I'm not mad at it. I think it is a two-horse race at this point. No disrespect to Jokic, no disrespect to Chris Paul, but currently it's a two-man race.
By the way, the Nets did lose tonight to the Houston Rockets. Houston has
Oh, they
won
lost.
six
Yeah.
in a row. Yeah,
Thank you.
Houston has
Sorry.
won six in a row.
That's right. I think Harden put up like I briefly saw it. I worked, so I didn't get to watch the game, unfortunately. But I think it
No,
was
I
like
got you.
almost a triple
He,
double, correct?
yeah, he put up 25 points, 8 assists, and 11 rebounds in 39 minutes of work.
Mm, nice. Yeah. So KD though, 28.4 points per game, pace in the league, 7.7 rebounds, 5.4 assists. It's just classic Kevin Durant numbers, man.
Yeah, he's balling right now. I would go KD just because Steph can have a bad game, and I believe there's pieces around him where they can still pull one out. And a bad game for Steph, I'm not saying he's gonna shoot like 4 of 21. We saw him shoot 4 of 21 against Phoenix and they lost. But if he has a subpar game, that system, the coaching, the talent that they have in Golden State, they don't need him to go off for 30 every night. If you're watching what Brooklyn's doing, Kevin Durant, if he does not pop, they're losing the game. Like it's at that point. Like you said, James Harden's been inconsistent. You've got quotes from Steve Nash coming out saying, I mean, if I play KD any less, we're probably going to lose the game, which is crazy. We've got KD averaging 40 minutes over his last like 6 games. So I would probably go with KD for the MVP, but I would not be mad at Steph. Steph's been phenomenal.
Now, on a bigger sense, right? Because I mean, the MVP award's great. Um, just as like individual players in a vacuum, I think a lot of people would say KD is probably the better player because of his measurables. He's just
Mm-hmm.
unstoppable, right? And he's kind of, but the other thing, and I've heard you say this even, is he doesn't really elevate the ones around him, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially the way when you look at a guy like Steph and the way that his off ball movement and that whole system is basically predicated off him and the gravity that he has on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
But then I hear you say that, man, this he's KD's pretty much carrying this team. And so, and when we saw Steph last year, uh, on a kind of a not as talented roster, depleted with health and growing pains as rookies and weird
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, he couldn't really. elevate him to a number one seed like KD's doing. So
Mhm.
while I do think Steph is the MVP so far, it's kind of interesting to me because I also feel like these guys are kind of battling out for the best player in the world title. So I guess my point is, do you still kind of hold the same regards as like KD doesn't really elevate the ones around him, even though on a depleted roster, he's elevating the team overall?
Well, yeah. Well, regular season and postseason is a big difference. Um, Kevin Durant's talents will make others around him better in a nutshell because you're going to win more games with him. So last time I checked, that does elevate others around you when you're winning ball games. The problem with KD is I think his weakness in making others better to an elite level shows in the playoffs. And I think that's what we saw versus Milwaukee. I know he had a toe on the line and whatnot, but what happens when you're not able to go off for 45, 11, and 10? You know what I'm saying? Like, you could win a game scoring maybe 25 and having 12 assists or making that right pass in the postseason. But in the regular season, Kevin Durant's definitely elevating those around him in the regular season on a night in and night out basis. Um, Best player in the world. I mean, this might be a whole other pod, but I don't know. Best player in the world for me, I, I wouldn't pick Steph as the best player in the world. I would never pick Steph. I could say he's the MVP this year. I could say he had the best season. But in a nutshell, when you say best player in the world, I would not give that to Steph. I'm giving that to either Giannis or KD.
I think that's fair, and I don't want to dismiss Giannis from this conversation. I mean, just last episode, I was saying Giannis is the best player in the world. Um, I think Steph deserves to be in that conversation, though, and I think Kevin Durant definitely deserves to be in that conversation,
Mhm.
especially when you're talking about in basketball. Defense is very important, but it's still 60-40 offense, if not, weighted even more. And when those two guys, along with Joker and LeBron, are just offensively on another level. Um, KD, it's interesting. Does this man ever like miss a jump shot, man? Like I know Steph's definitely the greatest shooter of all time, but like it is insane watching Kevin Durant play and just hit every single jump shot, no matter where on the floor. He can pull over three in front of your face, drive, give you a little like shoulder, and then just rise above you. Like I don't know. I don't know if there's a more perfect player for that roster in Brooklyn as far as like to carry them because they're doing wonders with nothing.
No, they really are. They really are. And again, I'm not definitely not trying to dismiss Kevin Durant. I think he's an absolute stud. I think he's a baller. Watching him shoot the basketball, I like to say score the rock rather than shoot, just because if anything, I think he should be taking more threes. I'm not a fan that he takes like four threes a game. If he's such a great shooter, I would like to see him actually shoot more threes, to be honest with you. But watching him score the rock is, I mean, it's insane. He's definitely one of the better perimeter scorers the game has ever seen. And what he's pulled off this year, again, they don't have anything really. They got an aging LaMarcus Aldridge. Blake Griffin has completely found himself out of the rotation for Steve Nash. He's getting DNPs. You know, I saw they try to trickle in Cam Thomas tonight, but they don't really have anything really going on, which is why he would get my vote over Steph. Like I said, Steph, I don't feel like has to be, he doesn't have to make 8 threes a night. He doesn't have to go off for 40 points every night for them to have a chance. He doesn't have to do that. KD has to. If he's not playing as great as he's playing right now, they're probably a fifth seed in the East. Like he just doesn't have the help as of right now. And that's why I was leaning towards him. But best player in the world, still though, real quick, my bid is Giannis. I still don't think there's anybody in the league on that man's level right now. I would take Giannis.
I agree with you there. I initially I said going back to the kind of MVP discussion because
Mm-hmm.
I did say I would vote Steph today, and so while I speak glowingly of Kevin Durant, I don't have anything negative to say about the guy. Um, I would still pick Steph. And a lot of it is intangibles based. But I mean, the number, like the productions, he's shooting 13 threes this season, which is a career high. And he's still hitting 42%, which is insane. Like the guy, he just ups his volume. And while most people, their efficiency decreases, you increase their volume, he's just steady. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but intangible wise, and Steph is he's kind of the perfect teammate, man. And I feel like he really has that team believing that they could be something special. Where when I look at Brooklyn, you talking about how Blake is falling out of the rotation. You have all these guys that are like, man, we need you to play 40 minutes. James Harden, we need you to play 40 minutes. I look at Steph and kind of what the culture that he set and what he's doing on the floor. And I feel like he's got that team believing that they have something special and that they're going to make something special because of we got that guy and everything that he brings to the level, to the floor.
Well, definitely not going to argue with any of your points there. I agree with mostly all of them. I would say this though, it definitely helps in Steph's case when you have probably the coach of the year and defensive player of the year on your team right now. I would definitely say that goes into the belief of the other dudes in that locker room believing like they have a chance at something special. It helps when you got Kerr and Draymond Green. And not to take away from Steph, but I mean, I don't know. Me personally, I think the entire system in Golden State is a wonderful thing. I don't think it's just that. I think it's Steve Kerr's coaching on offense and defense. I think a lot of that is Draymond and what he's able to do on the offensive side of the ball as far as running their offense, um, reading and reacting, and defensively just hunkering down. He's the best defender, I would say, this in the league this year. So Steph's got a lot more help, man. And
I
when
hear
you
you.
look at uh
I want to talk about the system real quick though, because when you go to the NBA and you're most of these guys, right? What do you want to do? You want to get the ball, you want to clear out, you want to get buckets, and you want to get the bag. And when you go to the Golden State Warriors, and and it starts with your star player, and he's running off screens. He's a guard who's one of the best screen setters in the league as well, and he's
mhm.
off the ball, on the ball, communicating, all that good stuff. And you're changing where these grown men, their instinct when they get to the NBA is make your money, get your points, do this. And you look at what like Wiggins has done, and you can say it's the golden, it's Kerr, it's this. But at the end of the day, man, like you look at the Spurs, right? And Greg Popovich, everyone talks about the Popovich thing, but really, like it was Duncan, right? He set the example and he kind of set the standard. And I feel like it's the same thing with Curry in this situation. I don't think you could do that with anybody. You can't run that system with any other star player. Like he's one of one.
I would say it sounds like you're contradicting yourself a little bit, just because, yeah, it's Steph and his selflessness to buy in. But what is he buying into, Scott? He's buying into a system. That's Steve Kerr's system at the end of the day. It's a 50-50 situation. You can't have one without the other. So I agree with you. And a lot of dudes that come in the league, they make their money, they want the ball in their hands. They basically would love a coach like D'Antoni. You know what I'm saying? Usage rate's going to be sky high. They get their numbers, they get all that. A lot of dudes wouldn't be willing to buy into a system that's for the greater good of the team. And that's where Steph's um, superstardom is incredibly rare in being that selfless. But at the end of the day, man, he buying into a system, and that system was brought with Steve Kerr. So that's a 50-50 situation there. That he's like, we can give him credit that he's willing to run off the screens and do all that good work and for the betterment of the team. But you can't just negate. The only reason why Steph's willing to do that is because it works, and he understands the system and how it's going to lead to better winning. But that's every coach isn't doing that though. So Steph isn't allowed, he wouldn't be in a position to sacrifice, quote unquote, and play off the ball if the system wasn't working. If that system wasn't working, they didn't win titles. He bucking that system. He's saying, give me the ball, put the ball in my hands. So it goes hand in hand. That's all I'm saying.
And it's fair because you look at the Mark Jackson versus the Kerr Warriors. There's definitely a difference in philosophy and stuff like that.
100%.
I guess what I'm saying though is at this point in time, what is this? Kerr's like sixth season, seventh season, something like that. He's in sixth,
20,
right? 15? Is it 15? Was it or
15,
14 when he came
15,
in? 15. Okay.
15.
At this point, and I don't know. I don't think you're wrong because I don't want to take credit away from Kerr because I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah.
But in this season alone, it's the Warriors are 21-4. Brooklyn is 17-8, and they're still sitting on top of the East. But I feel like we've yet to see the best of Milwaukee. It's been a weirder Eastern Conference, right? Where you got like Washington in the top four for a while. Philadelphia was out of the playoff picture for Atlanta was out of the playoff picture for a little bit.
Milwaukee was out of the playoff picture for a little bit.
Yeah, we're in the West. I feel like it's kind of more like besides the Lakers, I mean, everyone's kind of where we expected them. And Golden State is the outlier there where they're look like the best team in the league, man.
Well, yeah, and that obviously, like we saw Steph last year when he didn't have Klay Thompson and he was bereft of some pieces, they couldn't make the playoffs. Now, I just want to know, when are we going to start giving Kerr credit, Draymond credit, and when are we going to start giving their GM credit? Because the GM went out and GM'd his ass off this offseason with some of these pieces. Otto Porter Jr., who's playing great for them. Gary Payton II playing great for them. Like, they fixed this roster, and this is a significantly better team than what Steph had to work with last year. So I want to give the front office a lot of credit there. Draymond looks to be in better shape, and I also noticed he is looking for his shot more. And there's moments where he wasn't as aggressive as he has been in years past, and it's helping their offense flow. Like, he's willing to take another three. He's willing to drive and go to the rack, and it's making life easier for the rest of the offense. Because I remember after their playing game with Memphis, I believe, who's their GM? The Golden State GM? What's it? Bob Myers. He called Draymond in his office and was like, what are we going to do with your offense? Because if anyone that's listening, you remember when they lost to Memphis in the playing game, Steph got triple teamed in the backcourt, and the ball ended up getting to Draymond, and Draymond had a wide open floater to win the game and go into the postseason. And when you see how bad this attempt was from 6 feet out, it was really egregious. And at that point, you don't have to be averaging 15 points, but you can't be that player and not be able to get a better look at the basket being wide open. And you can tell he took that criticism and he took that feedback, and he's a lot more aggressive with his shot. So I'm just looking at it, man, and Golden State, it's just a way better situation than what KD is working with. And for him to still have them as the number one seed in the East, I definitely think to me, it's a lot more impressive than what I'm seeing in Golden State. If we're going individually, team-wise, Golden State's way more impressive. But individually, I'm definitely going to have to give the MVP to Kevin Durant right now.
I don't think you bring up any bad points. I think I really do agree with almost everything. I think just my philosophy is a little bit different in that, I don't know. I just feel like Steph brings more to the table, even without, like, I understand the help and stuff, but just the system runs through him. And
whose system is it?
But my point is, you can't run that system with everybody. Like, you can't just throw KD in that system or like a Dame. You can't just throw those guys in that system. It's gonna work that way.
Like I said, Scott, it's 50-50. I agree with you. Steph bought it. Man, you're trying to take away Kerr's credit here. You can't do it. It's a system that Steph has fully bought into, and that shows his unselfishness. And I think that's why he's one of the he's a special superstar. He definitely belongs in the Tim Duncan because he understands he wants to win for the betterment of the team. I've never seen a coach have a talented ball handler the way Steph is and be able to convince this man to be off the ball the way Steve Kerr has. That is a testament to Steve Kerr. I don't know any other coach that would have done that. Most coaches put the ball in their guys' hands and they say they let him loose. And it's 50-50, fam. It's definitely a 50-50. And Draymond, we can't sleep on Draymond. That like he's the trigger man. He's literally Steph's pick and roll partner. The reads that Draymond makes, this man has a beautiful basketball mind. He has one of the greater minds of this generation, offensively and defensively. The reads that this man makes in that offense, this team doesn't look the same. And it's funny because people was killing Max Kellerman years ago when he said this. He said the second most important warrior is Draymond. It's not Clay. He said you can find other dudes to supplement what Clay does. Not to take anything away from Clay Thompson. He's that dude. But what Draymond is able to bring on both ends of the floor, he's the second most important piece to that team. He should already have 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. Gobert stole one of them, and he's on his way to get this one. So at the end of his career, you could say this he wasn't crazy. He's the best defender of this generation. He's that guy, and that's who Steph has. So I love Steph, but their situation, we'll have to do another pod. I don't want to like get too much into and get too nerdy with the Golden State situation, but I definitely would love to break down that entire run and situation because I think it's a beautiful basketball situation when you see how they were all drafted together. Like it's a how to draft, GM, and star in your role. And you look at what happened to OKC, how they drafted 3 straight MVPs, had Serge Ibaka, had all that, and look at what happened. You know what I'm saying? So to see what Golden State was able to pull off and continue over a 10-year stretch, something beautiful. But we definitely will do another pod on the Warriors inside and out.
Going back to Kevin Durant, and I'm moving past kind of the MVP discussion. You mentioned like how much they're relying on him. This dude is playing like 40 minutes every night, and it's crazy because not only is he off a major injury, but remember he's off the Olympic run. He went deep in the playoffs where he was playing high minutes, and now he's kind of taking on even more. Do you feel like this is sustainable throughout the year?
Man, I'm a KD fan. I'm a basketball fan. So the league is better when he's healthy. I missed him when he was out for that year and a half. I hope he's able to sustain it. I hope he's not. Actually, what I do hope is this. I hope he's not going to continuously be put in the position to sustain it. Because we forget because how great he looks. He's not no spring chicken. Don't get it twisted. Kevin Durant's in his 14th, 15th season? Like he got years under his belt. This isn't a 6-year vet. He got a lot of miles on those tires. So I just hope Steve Nash, you're going to hear me say this about coaches in the leagues. I don't think enough coaches do it. Figure some shit out. It's December. Figure some shit out. I don't want KD to be put in a position to sustain this. Because yes, is he getting paid $40 million a year? Yes, he's getting paid all that money. This is not what you're asking him to do with his situation, though. I don't think he should be required to be doing this in season 14, 15, off an Achilles tear, off of the Olympic run he had, off of going deep in the playoffs like you alluded to. I just think it's too much to ask. And I think you're playing and you're dancing with the devil there if you're Brooklyn.
Is this a situation like Nash being a former player, kind of knowing what kind of toll he could put on these guys? Or is he just completely is he handcuffed and he doesn't care?
I don't think Nash gives a fuck. At the end of the day, me personally, I don't like Steve Nash. I'm gonna just put that on Front Street for the listeners. I'm not a fan of Steve Nash. I didn't like him as a player. I understand he won 2 MVPs, which is robbery, but I'll say this about Steve Nash. He played under Mike D'Antoni. D'Antoni ain't resting nobody. I'll just put it like that. D'Antoni, we saw what he did at Harden. Harden got a lot of miles.
He's not quite a Thibodeau level, but
Well, not on the defensive side of the ball. No, he's not Tom Thibodeau, but as a
Or
primary ball.
playing Levine 7 minutes on a torn ACL.
He's not Tibbs. He's Zach Levine really did play 7 minutes on a torn ACL for
This is real, guys. You guys can YouTube this if you want.
Zach Levine tore his ACL on the court, and Tibbs had this man out there for another 7 minutes playing on a torn ACL. So he's not a Tibbs. But Steve Nash was also that dude that D'Antoni knew had a bad back. And after every single timeout, he's getting stretched by the Phoenix training staff, and they're giving this man cortisone shots on the bench. So Mike D'Antoni was still playing Steve Nash 40 minutes. Like, this is what it is. Steve Nash is a tough brother. Like, he gonna run them into the ground. I don't think he gives a fuck about that. He said it. They asked him, "Hey, Steve, coach, how do you feel about the minutes he's playing?" He literally said, "I don't give a fuck." He said, "What do you want me to do? Play him less and we lose?" Like, no, we play him more and we win more. Like, it's Kevin Durant. Like, he said that. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're KD, you're like, really? This what we doing? If I'm KD, I'm like, yo, you might have me a little fucked up, fam. Like, it's December. This ain't no playoff push. Like, what the fuck? You better figure some shit out and coach. Like, you can't have me out here playing 40. Bro, this Kevin Durant, if he goes down, public enemy number one is going to be Steve Nash. Kevin Durant better not get hurt. He better not get hurt. Because we didn't talk about this enough. This man missed half of last year. He missed half of last year with a hamstring issue. He still has yet to put together a full season of play since his return. He hasn't put together a full season.
What's up with these hamstring issues with the Nets? Because James Harden's had this hamstring issue for like 8 months, dude. This is the longest hamstring injury I think I've ever encountered in my life. Like, they're still talking about this. I'm like, dude, this happened how long ago? How is he still suffering from this hamstring thing?
I'm gonna be honest. If you're a Nets fan, you got to be worried because James Harden ain't no spring chicken either. He got deep playoff runs, and his style of play, dribble, 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 dribble. Like, he got miles on that body, and we all know he ain't the most athletic brother in the league. You got to be a
and
little.
He's Hall of Fame champagne campaign.
Oh my goodness, this man he got some seasons off the court. Y'all can
Weekly
Google
trips to Atlanta.
Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. That's all I gotta say. This man's got his jersey retired and for multiple clubs, and I'm not talking about just the Houston Rockets. This man's got jerseys retired all in Houston. So look it up. This man,
he knew about them lemon pepper wings, Lou Will.
Oh, 100%. That man has stimulated many small businesses and economies. Okay, I'm gonna just put it like that. He don't put some kids through college. I hope
what a charitable man.
He's very charitable, I hope he can stay healthy. I hope he can stay healthy because he's a baller. But he does have miles. He's definitely got miles.
Yeah, they've kind of separated themselves. Curry and Durant. Anybody else you could see maybe pushing their way in there?
Oh, for the MVP?
Yeah, just yeah, for the MVP.
If the league isn't on, their bullshit, because they be on their bullshit sometimes. Giannis
is having a great season, dude, and they're just getting better every freaking week.
Fun fact: I believe they are, after tonight's loss against Miami, I believe they are finally 11-1 when their big three plays. Going into tonight with Middleton, Holiday, and Giannis, they were 11-0. Little fun fact.
I saw that like the other week or like last week. I was like, that's weird because they haven't really been playing like consecutive games or anything. It was just like, who's tracking this?
Right. They were like 5-0, and I was like, one of the, and then they got to 11-0, and I was like, okay, yo, this is something. This is almost half the season. That's a sample size. So I would say Giannis. Joker is probably having technically the best season in the league. The Joker's having the best year. Problem is, he ain't got no kind of help. Man, Denver's in dire straits right now. They got a big win tonight, but they're not going to be anywhere in the photo finishes. So the Joker will have a lost season. I bet this season will be a better season for him technically than his MVP season from last year. But it is what it is. But I would definitely say Giannis. I think they'll end up with the number 1 seed, and I believe at the end of the day, I believe he should probably end up getting the MVP.
Giannis.
Yeah, it's his league. I mean, we can if we want to acknowledge it. I mean, it's this man's league. At the end of the day, he's gonna end up. He should be ending up with MVPs every single season. If he's playing like this, he's the best player in the world. Because you said it. You said his offense is 60-40. Well, that's nice. But when you have an elite player that can do both, that's a different guy. That's a different guy. And he's that guy. And the last guy that we saw that was doing that on both ends of the floor was LeBron James. It's Giannis.
Fair enough. I think I'd agree with that. Chris Paul, he's just never going to have the numbers. As much as that team's winning.
No. That's crazy. He should be getting some buzz. That's crazy.
I heard you when you're talking about Draymond, how he should win another Defensive Player of the Year. And I have a kind of a beef with this award. And I wonder if
a beef with
the award.
Draymond or the award?
The award, not Draymond. Draymond, he's my Defensive Player of the Year right now as well.
Okay.
What do the perimeter guys have to do to win this award? I don't understand the big man bias to the Defensive Player of the Year. I'm tired of seeing Marc Gasol, Rudy Gobert, like guys that defend the rim. Get it? When you have guys like Miles Bridges, Kawhi Leonard, or like a Ben Simmons, who in today's league, the most potent scorers are on the perimeter. And when you have the most like these perimeter defenders who can actually go out there and do the best job and shut down the best scorers and the most dangerous guys on the other team, I'm sorry, they're the most impressive defender, not the guy sitting back there waiting for the dude to come at him. He just throws into the stands or whatever.
Well, to go along with your point, the league has gone further away from the basket with the evolution of 3-point attempts. So it's crazy because let's say Steph goes against Gobert, correct? Steph could drop 50 and took 2 steps in the paint the entire night. Rudy Gobert didn't do shit defensively. Like that could honestly happen where I don't even have to see him. I don't even have to go I don't have to go in there. But when you got dudes traveling, as they say in the NFL with cornerbacks to receivers, you got dudes like Ben Simmons that are traveling, fighting over picks on the perimeter. We got to throw Draymond in there as well. Like I'm with you. I think Gobert could have maybe 1. I don't know how this man has 3 Defensive Player of the Years. I don't know how he has 3.
I understand the analytics community and how it kind of skews for the big man, especially when you look at like on-off numbers, defensive rating, stuff like that. They do show more, they're skewed towards the big man. But in today's league, it just doesn't make sense to me. When we go look at the history of this award, okay, I'm going to rattle you off the winners since, man, I could go. Okay, you go.
I could go
Rudy,
back too.
Rudy Gobert last year. Giannis, great pick. But then before that, you got Gobert, Draymond. You had 2 years of 2 years of Kawhi, but then it's Joakim, Marc Gasol, Tyson Chandler, Dwight, KG, Camby, Wallace. Like it's just big man after big man, and it's forever.
By the way, all those picks are correct. By the way, like 90% of the names you named off, those were the correct picks. The game just now really started changing the past 6 seasons. Well, that's LeBron.
Was the correct okay.
Yeah, he got robbed. LeBron got
last year's Rudy Gobert. You cannot convince me that it's not Ben Simmons last year.
No, it should have been Ben Simmons last year. He got robbed.
Like
that's 2.
even the Gobert years in 18, 19, like, come on,
Yeah, I'm
man.
gonna throw Gobert. I'll give Gobert maybe one, but I don't know how the voters made the mistake 3 times. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
I don't know. Like the Marcus Gasol thing is crazy to me because not only was this man not on an all defensive team, but go back to that Memphis team and tell me who the best defender was. Tell me it wasn't Tony Allen. How the fuck does Marcus Gasol win the award?
I don't know what happened. It's that anti-LeBron agenda when he
How
was in Miami.
he's not even the best defender on his team, Christian. Like what I don't understand the bias of the big man. That's all I have on that rant. It's just it's annoying to me.
So who's your defensive player of the year this year? You said Draymond.
Is Draymond and second I have um why am I blanking out?
Bam.
The Phoenix kid. Um
Oh, Bridges.
Bridges, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Um talk about little
You
Portland.
got Caruso. You got Caruso third, or
Caruso,
he a
I
top five? He's a top five perimeter defender, fam. He don't
yeah,
made Steph look stupid this year. He locked up James Harden, put him in the chamber. I, I'm gonna give our boy AC some love here. There's not 5 dudes ahead of him playing better perimeter defense in the league right now. He's leading the league in steals off the bench in 26 minutes work. This man's bro. He's got cuffs.
Caruso's impressive and just the consistency and he's his IQ on the defense is really nice too because
Oh
he
my
gets in the
goodness,
passing
yeah.
lanes. He could lock you up on ball. Um, he'll dive. He's got the hustle factor that you kind of want from your leading defensive guy. So Caruso definitely can be up there. Not mad at
I
that.
hope he finished the season top 5. He doesn't have to be a finalist for top 3, but Alex Caruso absolutely he needs to be first team All NBA, which I believe he'll make, and he needs to be a top 5 finalist for Defensive Player of the Year because this man for the past 2 seasons has been absolutely locking dudes in the perimeter up. Steve Kerr said, "I'm just glad he's not in the Western Conference anymore," because we saw what Caruso did to Steph in that playing game, just cooking him on back-to-back occasions in the fourth quarter. So I just had to, my fandom for AC had to come out for the bald eagle. So I had to throw some love out there real quick.
I could throw him. I could throw him on the first team. I think my first team right now would be Caruso, Maxi, Bridges, Draymond, and Gobert. It's fine. He could be on
You're
that
not gonna
team.
put Thibault in there. You're not gonna put Matisse.
I think Maxi's is a little. Diable, he's not getting the minutes.
Not
Uh,
in the minutes.
he's not getting the minutes. I know Caruso is getting comparable minutes, but
Is Matisse getting over 25 minutes? I'm not sure if you have it in front of you.
mm, let's see. Tease Diable is he's around 20 minutes a game.
Okay, that's different.
Um, you want to talk about Portland?
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. I know we've kind of like hit anecdotes here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but it really feels like we're coming to a head here. It's weird because Portland at this point, they're having a general manager search. They're struggling to hire a general manager because Dame is now requesting for an extension on top of his 3 years, 4 years, however many left on the deal, but nobody wants to give it to him. The Dame has pretty much all summer played with the idea of like putting out their messages subliminally or through other outlets that he's on the cusp of wanting to leave, that he's torn, that he had discussions with the Lakers, LeBron and AD, like about the whole situation. Um, during the Olympics, the first like week or so, like it was weird. He didn't really want to answer anything, so he's definitely like battling these demons in his head. And now he's kind of coming around, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not asking for a trade. Portland's my place." Blah blah. He's all about it. But then you also hear now he's having troubles with Chauncey, and I think the nail in the coffin here is McCollum was just diagnosed with a collapsed lung. He's out indefinitely. This team is already struggling, Christian. Let's see. There's in the standings currently
11-15, and they've
11 and 15.
3-7 in their last
They're
10 games.
Yep, and they're outside of the play-in even. They're not even in the play-in currently.
They're free falling.
I don't know what the move here is. I mean, to me, at this point, I don't care what Dame says. Do you just trade him?
It's funny that you said that. I was on Twitter earlier today, and if I'm not mistaken, I didn't watch him because I don't really watch his clips, but it was everywhere. Stephen A. came out and said, if you're Portland, you just trade Dame right now. As soon as you're able to, just trade him. And I saw Richard Jefferson on another show. Richard Jefferson said, Dame can be loyal, quote unquote, to Portland if he wants to. I'm gonna tell you this right now. Portland's gonna move him. Richard Jefferson came out and said, like, they're gonna have to. They're stuck. They can't get a GM right now. Dame's asking for more money when the return for the supermax that he signed hasn't come to fruition. He hasn't done anything since he signed the max supermax extension. So they haven't gotten their return from their first investment. Why are they going to throw another 2 years, $103 million deal, I believe is the extension, and pay this man over $50 million a year? Now, for people that don't know, this is the same extension that Harden turned down from the Houston Rockets right before he got the boot and he dipped out to Brooklyn. So on top of this supermax that you signed, the next extension that you're eligible for is 2 years for 103. So you're basically making over 50 million each season, which would obviously make Dame the highest paid player. So the GMs that they're looking for, they're trying to find out, what am I supposed to do with a dude that's going to be age 35 or 34? But I believe he'll be 35 at the end of this extension if they re-sign him. What are they supposed to do with that? Do you really want this man at 35 years old making $50 million? And he's struggling this year. For all intents and purposes, the man's averaging like 21 points, 8 assists on 39% shooting from the field and 30% from three. So whether it's the ball, whether it's how the game's being called, it's not looking good for Dame, which is why I believe you saw the report, he took a cortisone shot or whatever for his abdominal muscle. He got to get his ass back on the court. These numbers ain't looking too good. He got to get some games under his belt right now.
Dame, the problem is, I don't know. You can't really trade him without a GM. So ownership kind of has to make this flip now into all the candidates. Like, okay, what does a Dame deal look like? What are we looking for? What are we going to get? Blah, blah. And I mean, everyone's going to talk about the Ben Simmons thing, which is fine. But it's just, I hate how Dame played this, man. I feel like he really fumbled this situation. And it's weird because I brought up Portland trading Dame, and this is a philosophy that I'm so against. Like, at the core of my team building philosophy, when you have one of those guys, you hold on to them. But this is a situation now where, how do you improve your team with him? We've seen the same story in Portland for pretty much 9 years that he's been there. It's the same team, just recycled with different, outside pieces. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And now, like you said, imagine paying him $50 million. Like, you can't build anything there. I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do.
First of all, you can definitely trade him without a GM. You're gonna get a GM in there, but all you have to do, like you said, if you're the organization, you gotta make your mind up. When you go get your GM, you just tell them, hey, yo, make this happen. We're trading Dame. Just give the word. And whatever the deal is, that's the deal. But I'm pretty positive, if I had to guess, I believe whatever GM comes in, they've been given the blessing. We got to trade this dude. Because no GM is going to want to come into a situation. Because now, let's say you're a GM and you give this extension out to Damian Lillard. Their track, like their run of success or non-success, is going to be associated with this new GM. If you're a GM, you want to come in, you want to get your own guys on that court. So if you're going to be held accountable for at the end of your contract or whatever the case is, at least you can say, well, those were my guys. You can't be a GM for the team if you were against extending their best player in the first place. So at this point, get a GM, give the okay, trade his ass out of there. I disagree with you in terms of you got to hold on to those dudes. I don't find Dame to be that dude. So that's where we differ on that. At the end of the day, you're 6'3". And what am I supposed to do with you? He's 6'3" with shoes on. And he's a one-way player. He don't play a lick of defense. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. And we also don't talk about this. He's limited athletically. At least Russ might be 6'2.5", 6'3" with shoes on, but this dude's at least gonna give me 15 rebounds on any given night. He gonna shell out 12, 13 assists. He gonna average 25 points. At least I know Russ has never missed the playoffs before. So, I would understand holding on to maybe a Russ even. I don't get the whole Dame thing. I don't get it because he only does one thing elite. He only does I don't know. Me personally, I don't
I
know what
gotta
I'm supposed to
stop
do
you
with
there,
Dame.
man. I guess that
You gonna
I'm
stop me
taking.
with what? Let's
I'm
go.
gonna
Let's
take.
go. Let's go.
I'm taking Dame over Russ 100 out of 100 times. Like
OKC Russ. Wait a minute. OKC Russ. You're telling me that dude that won the MVP putting up those
mm-hmm,
triple doubles,
mm-hmm,
that Russ, you're telling me
mm-hmm.
Damian right now is a better player than that Russ? Stop the pod right now.
This Damian,
Stop the pod. This Dame and
but
MVP
we
Russ.
can't go. Okay, but how about like last year's Dame? If we want to just go back in the time machine, I'm talking about like okay, last year's Dame,
No,
who's a
you said,
consistently clutch player that can bring his team to the conference finals to the
well,
second round. Russ can't do that. He's in the first round and bouncing every year.
okay. Hold on. You're getting a little hot right now. Stay with
You're
me.
the one that's like, let's go.
My words, you misinterpreted my words. Let me clarify what I meant when I brought up the Russ situation. My fault, because I understand the confusion here. I wasn't talking about currently right now. I was saying I would have to be getting production like that out of Dame right now. And I don't believe he's that dynamic. So I was going in time machine. Even last year's Dame, I don't believe last year's Dame still had that effect that Russ had with those pieces because the roster that Dame had last year is a better roster than what Russ did with his MVP season. Dame had a better roster last year. So that's why I was saying, me personally, I'm not big on keeping dudes like that. That's just me. And I wouldn't keep Russ. If I'm Washington, I would have did what Washington did. I would have traded Russ up out of there. At the end of the day, bro, what are you supposed to do with Dame? Is this a money thing where you just want seats in the stands? Like if you just want asses in the seats, then keep Dame. But if you're looking at a basketball standpoint, I don't know why you keep him because you're not going to be able to just pick up your franchise and leave Portland. Newsflash, Dame. You want to know why your rosters look the same for the past decade? Because you're in the same location for the past decade. You take Portland and put them in San Diego and tell me if that roster don't look completely different.
It
Ain't
doesn't.
nobody going. Ain't you said what?
I don't think it does that much.
Scott, who's
And
going to
it's
Portland?
not.
You wouldn't play in San Diego. You wouldn't play in San Diego. You
It's
got
not.
Damian Lillard there.
I mean, the okay, San Diego's weird because I think if there's a team in San Diego, you're just Kawhi Leonard's a package deal, but like that's a weird one. That's a very specific location with this specific situation. But
Vegas. I'll even say Vegas. At the end of the day, Damian, love you. Don't love you. You're not going to get any premier free agents in Portland. And that is the main reason why this roster can only do but so much. You have to get a generational dude like a Giannis. You have to draft those dudes. You have to draft the LeBron. You have to draft the Joel Embiid. You have to. There's certain dudes. Even Anthony Davis couldn't do nothing in the Smoothie King arena, but now he's getting exposed now. Now we kind of understand why they weren't winning anything in New Orleans. But you got to go get that dude from the draft. You're not gonna like the. Yeah.
well, there's always trade availables, right? And if you look back at the history of the Portland Blazers, and
Mm-hmm.
the problem is you paid them, and once you pay them, you really limit your flexibility, right? It's kind of like in the NFL, we see these
Mm-hmm.
teams they in the recent trend has been you get your rookie quarterback where you're not paying them, but you're getting high end production, so you could pay for an elite defense. You could pay for offensive weapons and stuff to be a complete team. Because you look at like the Seahawks, right? And they paid Russell Wilson 40 million, and they pay Jamal Adams 30 million, and that's it. And they don't have anything else. It's kind of like that when you're talking about 6'3" team. Because I do kind of agree with you. He's not at that size. He's not going to dominate the NBA in the highest level leverage situations deep in the playoffs. But
especially with that athleticism that he's got.
So where they messed up, you got to go back to like the LaMarcus Aldridge situation, right? They let him walk for nothing. Assets that they had that they've kind of fumbled. You could have built something around Aldridge and a package and got some young pieces, or you gotta get creative. You look at Milwaukee, right? And they got Giannis, and I know he's 6'10", so it's not the same exact situation, but still they were able to throw in a bunch of pieces and grab Drew Holiday and grab this guy and that guy. There's still like situations, and when I say I'm holding on to those guys, I mean like you got to just be able, as a GM and as an organization, be able to build around them. Portland hasn't done anything. I haven't seen them make. Have you seen them make and swing? Like the fact that McCollum's still on this roster tells you all you need to know. They've been complacent, dude.
Hold on. Real quick. I gotta defend McCollum real quick. I have a feeling McCollum has not been traded because Dame didn't want him traded. They've been boys. There's interviews of them together. So what do you go to your cash cow and Dame Lillard and be like, look, I know you want CJ, but we want to make the team better. Dame is that dude where I believe at one point he really thought he could win with CJ. I don't believe CJ still being there is on Dame and it's on management. I highly doubt that if they would have went to him after they lost in the conference finals versus the Golden State Warriors without KD, I highly doubt Dame Lillard would have been okay with shipping his boy out of town. He would have said, "We got to the Western Conference Finals. Let's run it back again." Like Dame's got to take culpability. I highly doubt Neil O'Shea was not running certain things by him. I don't believe CJ was just sitting there and Dame was open to change and they just didn't want to move him. I don't believe that.
This is my thing. And we talked about it with Frank Vogel. When you're in position of executive or head coach or a team leader, you have to make tough decisions. Okay. And that's one that needs to be made because we're going on 9 years of this team. It's the same story. KD said it. Remember the KD CJ McCollum interview maybe like a year or two ago? Yeah, you two are nice, but
no, what he said was crazy. KD kept it 100 though. He kept it 100. He said, "Ain't nobody." And at the end of the day, they had two players under 6'4". Which what am I supposed to do with you?
Exactly.
Neither one's a defender.
I hear you about Dame being 6'3". He needed a running mate at the wing though, or a big man, because the difference, and this is what separates Dame from other guys at that size. This man steps up when the moment arises, dude. That game last year against Denver was one of the all-time playoff games. We've seen this man hit clutch shots in the playoffs, step up in the playoffs like in big ways, but he's just not enough to put you to carry, but he's definitely somebody that could put you over the top.
No, 100%. I completely agree with you. They needed to go out and make a deal, and I'm sure whatever deal was available probably would have. Another thing, I think what hurt them is it's a copycat league, and I think they were so caught on the whole backcourt thing because in Golden State you had Steph and Clay, and I think they were trying to do their own version with their backcourt, and I think that's what really held up Portland. You were a poor man Golden State, and you got caught up in the sauce.
I really hope not, because you said it right there. You're a poor man's Golden State, which means you're never going to beat Golden State because you are trying the same, you're using the same formula, but you're just not as good. So then when you match up with them, how do you expect to beat them? You got to think differently in certain ways. Like, and I know he's not he had really bad playoff moments and stuff like that. But if you're Portland, there's no excuse. OKC goes out and gets Paul George and you don't. You know what I mean? Like things like that. Where it's
And that's the situation. I'm with you, man. I think there's enough blame to go around. I completely second these emotions. I just would love to have clarity. Would that have been approved by Dame to trade CJ in 2017, 2018 for Paul George? Because Paul George is not liked in the league, first of all. Let's put that on Front Street. A lot of dudes don't rock with Paul George like that. It would have been interesting. I'm with you. There's no excuse as an organization looking back. Paul George got to end up in Portland over OKC. You got to get something done there. But they were butt buddies, bro. And you saw it. You want to make that dude happy. My thing is this. I don't like it when dudes just act like they're not responsible for their current situation. And that's my problem with Dame. I'm tired of hearing the roster looks the same. When the trade piece that would change what this team looks like the most is either you gone or your best man at your wedding, CJ McCollum. Like, you can't keep telling me it looks the same. Like, what does he want them to do? That's my thing. Like, their moves, I'm sure, have been approved by you. And it's only an issue when you get the same result. But like, I don't know. Because I'm with you. CJ should have been off this team in hindsight 4 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. And where we end up after this, now CJ's gone, or he is at least hurt for a while. I don't know. Dame says
Hope he
not
feels
asking
better.
for a
Hope he
trade,
gets better.
but
Well, apparently Damian a report came out saying that he wants to play with Ben Simmons now. And I guess Ben Simmons liked it on Instagram. He liked the report or something like that. And Dame even clapped back on Twitter and was like, "This isn't true." And like I don't know. It's
all
a
right.
hot mess right now.
Let's have some fun then. Let's enough of this negativity. Let's have a little fun. What teams around the association should be targeting Damian Lillard right now? Get your GM cap on. I want you to let's play GM.
Should be targeting. He got some years on that deal too. You know what I would do? I would probably
What
New
about
Orleans,
Dallas?
Dallas. Okay.
You need to get Luka running mate because Porzingis looks worse and worse every day, dude.
But my only problem, I believe I want Ben Simmons in Dallas, if I'm being honest with you. They need a defender, bro. Because Luka don't even try on defense. He doesn't give a fuck, bro. He's like, look, I'm giving y'all 30, 10, and 10. Somebody else better guard that boy over there. Like, he don't give no. You cannot have Damian Lillard and Luka on the same team. You better be filling the rest of that roster out with Draymond, Simmons, and Gobert because ain't nobody guarding anybody on that team if you got Damian Lillard and Luka. That ain't happening.
A dark horse one that I could see maybe happening. What about the Wizards? Cashing in some of them Laker pieces.
Wait, you said cash? Hold on, real quick. Kuzma hit a game winner tonight, you guys. He hit a game winner from the corner three and started waving at Detroit, apparently, telling them they got to get up out of here. So I just want to put that out there.
He's a Flint kid. Why is he doing that to the Pistons?
I don't know. He better be careful before beef stew get all up in his grill. But I don't know.
I need Kuzma to get the blonde hair back.
No. Juntao cannot be making another appearance, bro. We can't have that.
Yeah, I like Washington to maybe do that deal. Why not?
You know what? Someone's got to say this. Damn it. I don't know. I thought I was gonna say Atlanta.
No, I hate it.
And that's what happened. I got hung up on it too, and I was like, I don't like it. It sounds nasty.
What about Boston?
I thought, you see, then they were my second thought, and I was like, I
What does
don't,
that deal
you
look
know,
like though? You gotta give them like Brown or Tatum probably, and I don't think you want to do that, right?
no, because I think they're both more valuable, low key, to winning at the highest level. Dame's defense is his size and his lack of athleticism and his unwillingness to want to play I don't know where to put him on a contender. His best case scenario would be going somewhere with a decent coach and a legit MVP player. And I don't know if Jason Tatum is a legit MVP player. I don't know if he's still a one or a two yet. Philadelphia is the best place for Damian Lillard. That's the bet he's got. He's going to go to a coach that has a strong voice, no matter how we feel about it. And he's easily the second best player on that team. And they have a culture there that's defense. You could put him in a lineup with Matisse Thybulle. There's some creative ways to make that go where you could kind of hide Dame defensively, because the only other no, I don't see it. I don't see him anywhere else for him to have success and for him to have an opportunity. What about New York?
I was gonna say he's gonna end up a Nick, but
He's been saying he ain't gonna do it, but
no, I actually like the Philadelphia thing, and I wanted to happen a lot for Daryl Morey because bravo for
same,
holding your ground and
same.
this, and I'm not against player empowerment, but when you're Ben Simmons and you got like 4 years on your deal, like what are we doing at that point? That's a step too far, at least for me. That's a
If
step
you're
too far.
if you're for player empowerment, you have to be rooting for Daryl Morey, because if he would have caved and Philadelphia got really screwed over in the deal and they took pennies on the dollar or whatever for Ben Simmons, I don't even want to see what the CBA negotiations would have looked like this next time around. These owners have been like, y'all not doing this to us no more. So I'm glad Daryl Morey put his foot down, and hopefully they get a good piece back, because this is going to get ugly. This next CBA, collective bargaining agreement, it's going to be a lockout. It's going to be a lockout. These
It's
owners aren't
gonna
going to be
get
having.
dirty
It's going to get nasty, and it's going to get really grimy.
because I
These
even
contracts may not be fully guaranteed anymore.
even as a Lakers fan, like the AD thing was even kind of dirty. You know what I mean? Like he had a couple years left on this deal. I mean, he only had two, but the whole thing started with like 3 years on his deal. Like,
Well,
yeah,
you and I saw the AD thing differently. I had no problem with that. He gave a heads up to his franchise that I wasn't going to re-sign. He didn't sign the max and then ask out. Like, you should give, like, they drafted him. I think you got to have cooperation from both sides. I would rather you tell me before I waste my money, pay you, and then you want to throw a bitch fit when you're not liking what we're doing with you, but you still signed the contract like what Ben Simmons did. You
yeah.
can't do that, Ben. Like, you just signed this contract. You signed up for this. You can't renege. That's unprofessional. So I'm really happy Darren Morey put his foot down, because if he didn't and they got back like a subpar player, oh my goodness, it would have got ugly in a couple. Do you know when the next collective bargaining agreement is?
I don't. I know the Major League Baseball is
Yeah,
in a lockout right now.
yeah.
Nobody cares though.
No
Um,
one gave a fuck when that news Sports Center was like breaking news. No one cared.
collective bargaining agreement in the NBA.
I believe it's 25.
Runs through the 23-24 season.
It's gonna get ugly.
They each have an option to terminate the CBA after its sixth season, so June 30th, 2023.
It's gonna get bad.
We will know because they have to notify you the other party before December 15th of 2022.
Jesus Christ. I hope it doesn't get ugly. I hope these contracts are still guaranteed, because that's where it's probably going to end up going. That if you're requesting a trade or whatever the case is, there's going to be a kicker involved where, like, they're going to have to hurt these players financially. Because to be able to just bitch and complain and go to a new situation and still be on a supermax is crazy. Because that takes out, because the whole purpose of a collective bargaining agreement is for both parties to act in good faith. And
Yes.
if a team is going to sign you and they're going to pay you, these contracts are fully guaranteed. Now, granted, organizations can get grimy, they can do certain things, but with those upper echelon players, they typically, for the most part, do right by them. They don't really screw the faces over like that. But when you
Yeah.
start having the faces start spitting in the face of ownership, it gets really uncomfortable because these contracts are acted in good faith because they're not going to cut you at the end of the day. They can't cut you. Like when you sign a supermax or whatever, they're not going to cut you and you're still going to get your money. So it's up to you to go out there and fulfill it. Now you can ask for a trade, but you got to be professional about it. Harden, how he quit on them was a really bad look. These
Yeah.
owners are not going to forget what Harden did last year. He was fresh off of signing that extension. So, man, I'm rooting for Daryl Morey right now. I hope they get a really good piece back in return, and I hope they win the deal, or at least it balances out to kind of alleviate some of the Harden mess because that Harden mess was pretty bad.
Do you think the supermaxes come back?
Wow. Wow. They're
Because
cooking.
you could kind of say it's been a failure in the terms that like its goal was to retain players. We've seen multiple occasions where players have one turned down a supermax and moved off, or vice versa, in like a Charlotte situation with Kemba. Like, no, we're not offering you that.
The only supermax that there's two supermaxes. I'll say one thing: Giannis winning a title in that market after signing the supermax, that helped the league. That helped the league a lot for these negotiations. That Giannis got a title in Milwaukee. That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
How
So you have Giannis and Steph, right? And that's like
well, Russ. So
Russ
the
is on
detail.
his like fourth team in 5 years here.
No, though. But in good faith, when he signed that contract, he wanted to stay. They ended up trading him on a supermax. He wasn't. He didn't want to leave. So that's also a situation where Sam Presti just wanted to rebuild and he wanted to start the rebuild over again. And at that point, Russ was like, well, if you're already going to trade me, at least let me dictate where I want to go. Whoop de woo woo woo. But Russ signed it. He was going to stay. So I'm sure that's on the record. That's not someone forcing their way out. He had no problem staying in Oklahoma. He's the only situation that I've seen a player on a supermax get traded, and they didn't request it. He's the only one I've seen that got traded because Sam Presti was over it. So you got Steph, you got Giannis, you got.
I don't know how it comes back, man. I don't. I mean, I think last time I touched on. I don't know if did I put that on the pod where I was like only a portion of the salary would go to the cap.
I'm not sure if you said that on the pod.
Let's recap my kind of theory on how to kind of meet in the middle here is because I'm personally I'm not a fan of the max contract. And the reason I'm not a fan of the max contract is from a front office standpoint. When you have a max and only like five guys really worth a max, right? But everybody on their team, the best player on everybody's team thinks, well, I'm a max guy. So now you end up overpaying for a bunch of guys and restricting yourself in the salary cap. So what you do, in my opinion, in this next bargain agreement is these best players, you allow them to sign, right, is whatever contract it is, however high, but only, and as the years increase, the percentage that goes against the cap decreases. So like say Dame, we'll use him since we're talking about him going into his 10th year, whatever he's getting paid like 45 million. But because he's in his 10th season with Portland, only like 38 million it goes against the cap or whatever it is. And then next season it's even less, even though he's making more the same amount, Um, that's just theory I have that could
And
work for both parties.
that theory helps teams just to clarify for the listener, it would allow teams to not be as strapped financially to go get other pieces to join the supermax player. That way, you don't have a situation where you're limited with spending money because you basically have so much of your cap hit going towards your best player. So you can basically fill out a roster better the longer he's with you after each deal, that even though he's getting paid in a certain amount of money, the cap hit against what the money that you have, the cap is the money that you're allowed to go out and spend. The hit against it is less. So you can fill out your roster essentially with some more leeway instead of being completely strapped and not having any financial freedom. So
yeah. So if you're the player, you still get paid. You get a better team around you, and it kind of works the same way for the front office. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the Supermax and on that deal when it comes time. But
we'll cover it in live time when it's being discussed and brought up. We'll definitely have all the coverage here.
Any final words?
No, not really. Just shout out to Dame. I bet LA looking real good right now, isn't it? That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna be nice. I'm gonna be nice this episode. But yeah, karma's a bitch.
To our listeners, I know we keep saying it. I think we bring this man up every week, but if you have not watched Evan Mobley play basketball, turn on the Cleveland Cavaliers.
He's now leading, by the way, in Rookie of the Year. He's gonna win Rookie of the Year, by the way.
Oh, now? Okay.
We've both been saying it. We would have took him number one. He's just real quick. He's like a baby Anthony Davis, but taller.
I don't like that because he's better than AD was as a rookie.
Well, no, you gotta give a comp. So like, if people don't know, he's in Cleveland, my guy. We gotta give him something.
Fair enough.
He's taller than AD, and his length is just an absolute problem. If you thought AD's length was a problem in New Orleans, Mobley's longer, and he's quicker on the perimeter. He's got a little bit of a mid range, just a little bit. But right now, I'm
go watch him, people. Go watch him play.
It's personal,
it's a joy.
man. Hey, if you're from Southern California, go show some love. He went to USC and he's from the area. So that's all I gotta say. He's a hometown kid.
Hey, Lincoln Riley. All right.
Fight on. We'll have no defense. We'll have no defense, but we're gonna have a Heisman winner.
We're signing off. Until next time.